Yeah, so most of my colleagues have already covered the major points. So I'll be covering those which are very particular to Meghalaya. I'm not very good at Hindi, so I'll just try to mix wherever possible. I would like to start with one quote saying that growth happens when enough people believe in the growth story. So enough people need to believe the story that growth is happening and it can touch them. And governments play an important role in conveying that story to the individuals. And as a part of that, storytelling is very important. But the problems that we generally see is that people who are into the storytelling, they're not equipped with data. And the people who are working with the data, they're too mechanical and they miss the emotional part of it and the soul part of it, and the storytelling is missing. So these are the two things that we try to cover when we started working with data in Meghalaya. For the last 3-4 years, there's a lot of effort that has been put in making data-based initiatives. It started off with identifying all the different departments, what are the requirements that they have, and upskilling them. But most of the work was happening at the department levels, and the challenges that we were facing was interdepartmental data. And when we started looking into that, that's when we started identifying all these challenges. And when we looked at different vendors, NDAP was one of the major vendors for us who ticked most of the challenges that we are trying to face. So right now we are working with NDAP for creating the state portal. So this, as you can see, this is still in the testing phase right now. We've identified 25 different data sets right now, and we have a target of going up to 200 data sets for the state of Meghalaya. Yeah, the challenges that we faced, this is one problem that was unique to Meghalaya. So it's basically different schemes had like different names of the villages, and even the number of villages were different. And one of the unique problems in Meghalaya was even one letter difference in a name was actually two different villages, which were not even close, and they were in like different blocks and even in different districts. So this was a unique problem that we had not faced in any other states. In any other states, even if different spellings were used, it was easy to map them. So the way that we had to solve this was, we know that hierarchy can change, names can change, district blocks, all of these things can change. But what doesn't change is the actual location. So the way we started identifying the actual names was by getting the lat long. So we started getting the lat long of each of these villages, so that irrespective of the project and in other places, we are able to like put it on a GIS map. And based on that, we had the enough confidence level that, okay, so the villages with these two similar names are the same village. The third one is data sources from we had like different data that was published. And though the villages were same and the data was same, the interpretation was different. So one of the major things that we had to work on was the data standardization part of it, and making sure that across the departments, this data can be used. So I would like to highlight one activity that we did in particular. Here, as you could see, there are like different timelines at which the changes have happened. It could be with respect to villages moving across the district, some districts being split and some districts being put together. So when talking to different people in the departments, the challenge was identifying who is using what reference of time and what reference of data. We thought that because LGD is there, local governance data is there, and then we have the codes for that, it would be very easy. But what we identified was, as per the latest LGD data, there were 53 blocks and 7,000 plus villages. But all the data that was being produced in the government was making use of only 46 blocks. And when we identified this timeline and said that, can you give us the data with reference to 2021, most of the people were not able to tie to that. Because while it might be very clear to us that LGD is there and 2021 is like where the change happened, we had to identify what was the local language that these people were talking. Because most of the internal data officers and the people from departments, they used to use this term which was like reference with respect to the total number of blocks. So whenever you ask them for any data or map, right, they would say, we're using the 46 block wala map, we're using the 53 block wala map. So we also had to like resensitize people within our team, saying that this is a kind of terms that we had to use. And we also came out with this visualization. So basically like people were able to identify when the changes happened. And based on this, we started getting the data also in that format, so that all historical data also can be mapped. And I would like to specially mention the importance of LGD that played a role here. We spoke to all people internally and started saying that any data that comes has to have an LGD code. It could be the district data, it could be block data or the village level data. Government of India has come out with these unique codes which makes it very easy for us to deduplicate and make the data interoperable. And the second thing is, this is a major thing that anybody who is working in data needs to identify. Granularity comes at a cost. If you look at the data sets that we have, most of the data would be at the state level or at the district level. But what we need to understand is in the hierarchy, you have the nation, state, district, block, and village. So any indicator, any decision could be made at higher levels, but the implementation always happens at the village level. So it is very important to make sure that the data starts from village and floats upward so that we will be able to aggregate the data. But the challenge for that is we don't have that kind of capacity building and infrastructure at the village level. So as of now, I would say that district would be a right place to start. But with every going day, we have to make sure that we go from district level to block level and block level to data level. With respect to this, Government of Meghalaya is doing a commendable job where they're identifying village level representatives who've been taught all these indicators and who will be basically capturing this data and updating in the portals going forward. So probably in another couple of months, we should be able to start getting the data at the village level. I know that it's very ambitious, but the government has been putting in all resources to make that happen. And regarding the validating and standardizing, I think I already covered this. One of the major decisions is to put as much data as possible in the public domain so that it can be validated by different individuals, different organizations, and governments, so that wherever there is an inconsistency. So earlier people used to look at like inconsistency in data is a problem, but we look at it, any identification of inconsistency is important because it tells us like what are the different sources because of which inconsistency is happening, and we validate that data, and every validation increases our confidence in data, and the more confidence we have in data, that is when we move from data to evidence and from evidence to decision making and decision making to the outcomes. So working with NDAP in particular, one of the learnings that we had from NDAP was data set level metadata and the column level metadata. Though Meghalaya government was already working on it, we took this as a reference and started mapping to this so that not only NDAP, any other portal also we should be able to map the metadata. The second one was standardization and merging of data sets. Merging of data sets is an outcome of the standardization. And if you look at the NDAP portal, you would see that it is very easy to merge data sets as long as they follow the standards. And I would like to highlight one example that we had in Meghalaya. We started with fires that happen in state of Meghalaya, and we put it on a GIS map. And when we told different people, decision-making people from departments, they said, hey, we have the fires that are happening in Meghalaya. Can you just put the temperature in those particular years also so that we can see that if the temperature is high, it is leading to that. Then one more person made a suggestion, why don't we put the percentage of green cover? So maybe that the percentage of green cover is less, which is leading to these forest fires. So this is just one example saying that when you bring all people together and you give them the tools, they will come out with the solutions on their own. And these solutions were just within the government. Just imagine what would happen if more of this data and tools are put out in the public and more people start using it. And with respect to feedback, the initial version of NDAP had like most of the things that were like JSON based and which had to be CI/CD pipelines that had to be run. One of the feedback that we gave them was they should build a UI interface so that the people from the departments should be able to do the self-service. That is, they should identify the data and they should be able to upload the data. The second one was we were working on two approaches. One is basically the top-down approach where everything is SDG based. SDG has goals, it has targets, it has indicators, and for every indicator, there is a numerator and denominator. What we are trying to do at Meghalaya government is, for each of this indicator, numerator and denominator, we are trying to map it to a particular data set in the state so that anybody who doesn't have a confidence in the indicator or the numerator or the denominator, they can actually click on it, go to the data set and verify for themselves. So that if there is an inconsistency, it becomes a feedback to us and we can start fixing that. And that is one thing. And the other one is like starting from the bottom up, where we start with the village level data and go to the top. Basically at every level, the data gets aggregated and shows only the important data. But anybody who wants to dig deeper should be able to click on it and go to the data at the finer granularity. And in addition to that, we also made suggestions saying that right now the portal that is there, it majorly concentrates on having the data and making it accessible. But we also wanted to work on the analytics part of it and the intelligence part of it. Because today, AI is making a lot of strides, and all we need is an accessible format like CSV data, and today we are already doing that. So if you just try to put these things together, we will not only be building a platform that can be used today, but we are also preparing ourselves for the future technological innovations that are happening. And predictive modeling is one thing that we are actively working on with other vendors like Esri and other people. But we would also like to see those things coming on NDAP so that it would become like a single portal for us to showcase all our data and also get feedback from the end users. Thank you.